Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the No Swear Gamer. Today, I have a very tiny plug-and-play system for you. That's right, it's the Sega Genesis Nano Arcade Virtua Fighter 2 plug-and-play system made by AtGames. This little tiny guy has a little joystick here, A, B, C, and X buttons, a little start button, your on-off switch that you can flick like so, runs on one single AAA battery, a little AV cable you can disconnect if you want to carry it around like a keychain, but it's not going to work without the cable, and just your standard composite cables here with just mono audio. Let's go ahead and take this little guy, plug it in my TV, and see how it holds up today. Let's go to the games. The Sega Genesis Arcade Nano Virtua Fighter 2 plug-and-play system carries a copyright year of 2008. It features 10 games, 5 standard Sega Genesis games, and 5 other lower quality games. The menu screen has a simple 2-page setup that not only allows you to select any of the 10 games, but also allows you to pick any starting level you want in Golden Axe, which is a nice touch. Once you select the game, in order to return to the menu screen, you need to turn the unit off and back on again. The first game on the system is Virtua Fighter 2 itself, which, for the Sega Genesis version, they put the game into a 2D style rather than the 3D style of the arcade original. It can still be an enjoyable game, but the mini joystick doesn't work well for some moves, and the graphics of the arena floor were very glitchy. This was actually pretty annoying and may have been an emulation issue, although I'm not that familiar with the original cartridge. The second game is Alien Storm, which plays like a sci-fi version of Golden Axe with some added shooting stages. I really like Alien Storm, and it makes a good addition to the system. The third game is Golden Axe, a true Sega classic. This is a fun game. However, I did have trouble performing the double dash moves on the mini joystick at times, which does take away from the experience. The ability to start on any level was a big plus and a feature I would like to see on other compilations. The fourth game is Golden Axe 3, a game that did not come out in America during its original release. The game seems to get a bad rap, and while it's not as good as the original Golden Axe, I still enjoyed it. The fifth game, and perhaps the best on the system, is Shinobi 3. While sometimes overlooked because of the big shadow from the Great Revenge of Shinobi, Shinobi 3 looks great and is a lot of fun. The sixth game is a version of the popular Snake game. However, this game really suffers from the mini joystick, as there were many times I ended up turning into myself because the snake moved in a different direction than what I thought I pressed on the joystick, which basically makes this game unplayable. Next we have Spider, where you aim a crosshair and fire at spiders before they land on your table and eat your cake, because we all know how spiders love their cake. It's boring and it's a pass for me. The eighth game is Bottle Top Race. Here you and 3 computer-controlled bottle caps take turns aiming and using a power meter to flick bottle caps on a race course. Go off the course and you lose that turn. Once I got a hold of the gameplay, I actually enjoyed this little game. Next is the Bomberman clone, Bomber. It's basically a single Bomberman-like level pitting you against 3 computer-controlled opponents, but this suffers from the lack of tight controls due to the controller. It's okay, but nowhere near as good as an average Bomberman game. Finally, we have the puzzle-like Hexagonos. It plays a little bit like Othello with a bit of a twist. At the beginning, you decide if you want to be a cell or bacteria. Then you take turns moving one of your guys. You can either duplicate yourself into an adjacent empty space, or jump over one space into an empty space. And if you end up near any of your opponent's pieces, they join your side. Whoever has the most pieces on the board when the board becomes full wins. I'm not a huge fan of Othello-style games, but I actually enjoyed this version. Graphically speaking, the emulation is overall pretty good, except for the glitchy floors in Virtua Fighter 2. But just like other AtGames Genesis products, the sound and music suffers, with some examples being worse than others. It's one of those things that may bother some gamers more than others. Family-friendly wise, I'm assuming this collection would get a T for teen rating due to the animated violence in a lot of the games. However, there isn't a lot of blood for the most part. On Amazon, you can currently buy these units new for $15. Now, new units do come with a cheap AAA battery. However, my battery was dead when I opened my package last summer, so I wouldn't be surprised if most of the batteries died on the shelf, since I believe they stopped making these years ago. So what did I think of the Sega Nano Arcade Virtua Fighter 2 unit? Well, overall I liked the selection of games, especially the original Genesis titles, and the ability to pick a starting level in Golden Axe. And the sound personally doesn't bother me as much as others. But the glitchy graphics of Virtua Fighter 2, the feature game, really bothered me, and the joystick, while serviceable most of the time, sometimes hindered certain moves in some games, which did take away from the enjoyment. There are definitely better ways to play these games, but the novelty of the keychain is pretty cool. So where am I going to rank this plug and play? Well, let me start off by saying that this is definitely better than the Atari Keychain Plug and Play at 14, although that one looked cooler. I also like this unit better than the Power Rangers one at 11 due to the better selection of games, but I do like the Will Spinny Wheel of Fortune at 10. So out of the 16 plug and play units I've now ranked, the Sega Nano Arcade Virtua Fighter 2 version is punching into the 11th position. The Sega Nano Arcade unit is pretty neat, but it has some issues. So what do you think of the Sega Nano Arcade Plug and Play? Whether you agree or disagree with me, feel free to let me know in the comments below. Also, feel free to click the like and subscribe buttons. If you'd like to support the show, you can do so at Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/NoSoreGamer for more information. You can also follow me on both the Facebook or the Twitter. And I'm a member of the Retro Junkies Network. You can find more retro podcasts and videos at theretrojunkies.com. Thank you for giving me a little part of your day, and I look forward to seeing you next time on the next episode of the No Swear Gamer. Take care, everybody.